I'm going to go to Ellery Queen, if that's all right. And I'm going to do exactly what Esther did. I'm going to invite you to look at the opening paragraph of My Queer Dean. The queerness of Matthew Arnold Cove, those were the days when you could still use that word without, you know. Yes. The queerness of Matthew Arnold Cove, beloved teacher of Ellery's Harvard youth, and lately Dean of Liberal Arts in a New York university, is legendary. Now, what does he accomplish by starting the short story with that? What does he lead you to believe, Judy?
Well, as an unusual person, he also gives you some of the characters, and you know where you're going. And if he's a dean of liberal arts, he's probably a bright person.
Okay, but just look at the words. The title was My Queer Dean. And you have the queer, second word in this is the queerness of Matthew Arnold Cove, Dean of Liberal Arts. Your immediate conclusion is that My Queer Dean refers to Matthew Arnold Cove, this queer dean at the New York University. And it's not until the end that you realize that that's not what the title means at all. It is simply the man's latest spoonerism. Don, you wanted to say something?
Just for me, hang on a second.
I thought it tipped me off at the very beginning that somehow the story was not only going to bear on him, but his way of, it isn't clear at the very beginning that it's this spoonerism thing that he does, but that his way of expressing himself or his viewpoint was going to be absolutely crucial to the story. And when you get to the end of the story, I could see that verified.
That's great. Where right from the beginning, he puts you on the wrong track.
So this is the closest you're going to get to a wrong, whatever, yes. A red herring, yeah. Because the first paragraph, well, the title is almost a red herring. So that, yeah. That's the one in the first paragraph. And it is, I couldn't resist this one, I'm sorry. I almost ended with it because I felt, well, okay, we have somebody in an academic setting, which will set us up for next week's Dorothy Sayers book, Gaudy Night, which is set at Oxford. What did you like about it, besides the spoonerisms, which are just absolutely marvelous? Did anyone else have a sense of, oh God, the writing is just so fabulous?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, the conversation, yeah, it made me very happy. I'm sorry you didn't like it, George.
Linda?
Yeah.
Linda, it was a real case of joy in watching the economy of words driving towards conclusion after conclusion after conclusion, and point after point, without solving the mystery for you. Just delightful writing. And I wish I could do that.
So don't we all? Yeah. Yes.
I was just wondering, is Ellery Queen a pen name?
I didn't give you an Ellery Queen background. I love Ellery Queen. Okay. Carol, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to
I
talk about that, because I think that that's the most wonderful part of this. And to answer your question, there is no one Ellery Queen, and that's what's such great fun about reading this, because they were. Well, I'm going to let Linda talk about it.
They're cousins.
You were prepared. They're cousins.
Born and brought up in Brooklyn. Manfred Lee and Frederick Danny. They were called Danny and Manny by their buddies. Their first book came out in 1929, and it was The Roman Hat Mystery. And they wrote it, and nobody knew that they were a team. They wrote it in response to a contest. And they won the contest, but the people who were offering to have it published went bust. and you know, one of those things. But another publisher, somebody else came along and liked it so much that they published it. For years, nobody knew. No one ever set eyes on Ellery Queen. Nobody knew about these two men. Columbia University held a symposium on his books, believe it or not. And this man appears wearing a mask. He actually wore a mask. And people were so frustrated. They had no idea who he was. He went to book signings, and he signed his name, but he wore the mask. And then there was, in 1932, another writer comes along, a man named Barnaby Ross, who writes this fabulous, fabulous series of mysteries: The Tragedy of X, The Tragedy of Y, The Tragedy of Z, and Drury Lane's Last Case. And Drury Lane is an actor who's going hard of hearing, I think. Anyway, if you've never read them, you should read them. And they have a challenge. And Barnaby Ross is facing off against Ellery Queen, and each one is supposed to come up with a challenge or a mystery for the other to solve. But Barnaby Ross shows up wearing a mask too. Well, it turns out that Barnaby Ross was a pen name that these two guys were using. It was Ellery Queen again, or Danny and Manny. So the showdown was really Danny and Manny facing off against one another. They were simply spectacular. And they worked with both of them by that time, or up until they started getting published and making money, worked for PR firms and advertising firms. So, I mean, they absolutely knew how to drum up popularity for their books, and they did a fabulous job. In 1941, they got called over to Hollywood to do some writing.